You are now listening to the EU Startups Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the EU Startups Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dave San Garcia, the editor at EU Startups. Today I chatted with Jekaterina Romanova. She's the CEO and co-founder of the Latvian startup PrintyMed. Now, PrintyMed develops health tech applications from spider silk, which, if that surprises you, you're not alone, because I, for one, didn't know what spider silk was, or even its applications in health tech. Not only health tech, but cosmetics and things such as skincare and hair care even. This has resulted in a partnership with Chanel for a cosmetic glove and even further plans for labs in Saudi Arabia. So they're a very interesting startup, and they're really getting started in very interesting ways and making strides in the application of their technology and the way they're scaling. Jekaterina and I were able to chat over the applications that spider silk has within health tech, as well as the future of health tech within Europe, the challenges of its regulatory landscape, and even where she thinks Latvia sits in the wider European ecosystem. We're also able to chat about her involvement in the Women TechEU program. She is a previous alumnus of the Women TechEU program. She was one of only 160 winners selected from almost 4,000 applications over the previous 2 years, meaning she was one of the top 4% of the successful applicants. Women TechEU is an EU-funded funding scheme which supports women-led deep tech startups across Europe. Selected applicants receive a combination of a €75,000 non-dilutive grant and a 6-month tailored business development program. Women TechEU helps early-stage innovators accelerate their growth through services such as one-to-one mentoring, business coaching, investor connections, networking opportunities, and support in tapping into further EU funding. By opening the doors for diversity in deep tech, Women TechEU says they are one of the most impactful tools in helping to shape a more competitive European ecosystem. Hello, Jekaterina, and welcome to this special episode of the EU Startups Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hello.
Well, I'm looking forward to our conversation today because I'll be honest, I know nothing about spider silk. In fact, I'd say before I started the research for this episode, I probably didn't even know what spider silk was. So I'm kind of looking forward to you giving me kind of a better introduction and a better lookout as to what it is. But before that, I want to give you a chance to present yourself and kind of develop a little bit about what I mean by spider silk.
Well, my name is Jekaterina Romanova. I'm the CEO and founder of PrintyMed. In PrintyMed, yes, we are producing biomimetic spider silk. Well, you definitely have seen it many, many times because it's like spider web, let's say, if we are talking more simpler. And I think you would definitely have at least one spider in your house who have created some web and you have seen it. But we actually produce it in our lab. We have this BioTech startup because this spider web or spider silk, it's actually a very unique material which you can use either in medicine, in defense, textile, and many, many other sectors.
Okay. Well, it's kind of sci-fi sounding to me, you know, as spider silk in health tech and in medicinal applications. So it's an interesting topic. It's one of the reasons really why we wanted to have you on the podcast, and obviously your relationship with Women TechEU, but that just what you do really at an innovation level is very interesting. But before we get into the meat of all of that, I do kind of want to touch on where you began. Because you have an interesting path to what you're doing now, and that you didn't begin in health tech, you didn't begin in biotech or any of that. You began in banking and sales, if I have that correctly. So kind of talk to me about how that happened. How did you start in banking and sales, end up the founder of a company that produces spider silk for medicinal applications?
Yeah, you're right, because I'm the master of economics. And I studied economics, and then I used to work in bank. But at age of 18, I started my first startup, which was posture correction T-shirts. I started it, let's say, kind of by accident. Just I was really, how to say correctly, mm, I had the idea that I want to try to do some entrepreneurship, but I didn't had actual some product or something. So I went to one incubator. I tried to apply there because I just wanted to have some company, some startup, and I wanted to learn how to do the things.
Mm,
But yes, I was alone and I hadn't have any, let's say, idea or any product. They did not accepted me, and then I like just drop in chat the message asking like, hey, perhaps there's someone else who is looking for some teammate. And there was another girl with this t-shirt who was looking for the teammate. And yeah, then we started working together. And this is how I found my first startup, with this posture correction t-shirt. And it was not so much, let's say, medical, but still a little bit medical related, as we worked with the physiotherapists and doctors. And
mm,
from that point, I started diving deeper. After some years, I founded my second startup, which was 3D printed bone grafts for facial operations. This was much more medical related, let's say. And yeah, during that time, I learned it a lot, the regulatory and all the things. So yeah, like already for now, for last 10 years, I'm working with different kind of medical startups, and I'm
mm.
still all the time in this area, and I'm learning and yeah, developing myself, developing different skills and knowledges about the medicine, regulatory, and all the aspects. So
Mm.
yeah.
So then, do you feel that your medicinal understanding has developed a lot more since then? Or do you still kind of really rely on your economics understanding, on your business understanding to bring value to these companies?
Well, actually both, because still, well, I have learned it a lot, but still, I'm not
Mm,
the expert. I'm not the doctor, and
right.
so in my team we have another lady. She's a doctor, and we have a scientific team who
Mm,
is actually working in the lab. And I'm more, let's say, a business-oriented person, so I'm more working with the finances, grants, investors, customers, and so on.
mm. Well, when I kind of did research on your background, when we're talking about banking sales or something, there's something that kept popping up is that you kept mentioning, and there was mentioned that you had a lot of interest in artificial organs, and that was something that kind of has carried out throughout your kind of career and throughout your interest. Why? That's such a very specific thing to have an interest in, right?
Well, actually, I don't know, let's say, how it disappeared because it's really weird, yeah. Because
Mm,
when I started kind of diving deeper in all the medical world, let's say, I had this idea that I really want to work on artificial organs and I want to develop them or somehow develop something which might be used for them. I don't know how it, let's say, how and why, because I'm not some doctor, I'm not some, I don't know, bioengineer or someone who actually could do this. But I don't know why, but I have this like crazy idea in my mind. I think just because I see the really big value and big potential in this. And
mm,
I don't want to spend, let's say, my 10, 20, 50 or something years on doing, I don't know, another app kind of, which will be like billion plus one app in the world who perhaps someone use or perhaps not, but come on, there is not such a big difference, at least for
mm,
me there. But the artificial organs, this is the thing. Let's say
mm,
people are dying, and this stuff can really change the game. So this is something which is worth to spend all those years. So yeah,
mm.
I don't know. I'm like, I need big mission, big dreams, and something big to go for it.
So then, if we're talking practically, is that what you would say the biggest application of spider silk is? is artificial organs?
Yes, this is actually our kind of big goal, which we would love to achieve. But of course, we have started with some smaller steps forward. To develop artificial organ, it's quite hard, and its
Mm,
organs are like complex. There are a lot of different things from which contains one organ. So yeah. But for the beginning, we started with the membranes for organ on a chip solutions because this is, let's say, some faster to develop and also faster to enter the market because of the regulatory and so on. Then
mm,
we use also our spider silk for different wound dressings and so on. But of course, yes, our long-term goal is to develop artificial organs and scaffolds. For example, we have made artificial heart valve prototype.
mm.
Yeah. Also, we are working on the project for artificial eye nerves. So there are a lot of stuff which can be made from spider silk, where also let's say, the spider silk can be used as the, uh, let's say, basement of the next organ building and so on.
Sure.
So yeah.
And I mean, did you kind of see all of this from the very beginning? Because if someone pitches to me a company that makes spider silk, I'm not going to be immediately thinking, "Oh yeah, heart valves and artificial organs." I feel like it would take me a long time to kind of get to that conclusion. Did you see that from the very beginning when you kind of met your co-founder and you thought about creating this company?
Yes, because all this kind of idea and all this research came out from Latvian Institute of Organic Synthesis, and our main scientist Kristaps Jaunzems was doing this. And when I saw him, he was presenting this kind of research about the spider silk and so on, and
Mm,
he was mentioning this artificial organs. And at that moment, I realized that this is something what I need and that I really want to work with him, that I want to form a team with him and
mm.
to do the company startup and so on.
So how much of this kind of technology and development was already made by the time you kind of jumped on board?
Yeah, well, at the institute, they did some, let's say, basic research about the spider silk as material as such, and they have developed the process how to produce this spider silk using like this biomimetic way of the production. So they mimics the process how the spider produce the spider silk in the nature, but they do kind of the same but in lab. And at that moment, they had like just really, really some small samples of the potential material, and yeah,
Mm,
that's it.
mm. And how did you convince them that you could join this? Because, if we're looking through a science background, right, that's easy enough to quantify and say, oh, well, I have a doctorate in this and I can do that and I have this research. But you're coming into this kind of with another understanding, the other side of business. How did you convince them that they should kind of join in with you on this?
Well, actually, Kristaps, he was willing to somehow commercialize his this research. So
Mm,
he participated in the ignition event, which was organized by Commercialization Reactor. So it's the big event where the scientist presents their researches, and there are big audience of the entrepreneurs, and they're listening and trying to form some team to create the startup. So this is the main idea of this event, to create
mm.
startup at the end. So he was already willing to do something with his research, and
Okay.
he was looking for some entrepreneurs because he's more he's scientist. He kind of don't know anything about the business, and he's
Mm,
not ready to go out of his lab. He wants still to do the research and to work on all this. But for the business, you need someone who will be actually doing the business, will go to the customers and so on.
right. So I imagine that anybody listening to this episode has to be wondering, well, how does this affect me? At what point do I benefit from this kind of technology? Where are you at that stage in terms of the application of the tech? Is it that Have hospitals started using it? Have there been any kind of real world applications to the technology yet?
Well, we're still kind of testing and so on because, for the medical applications, it's quite, you need long time to get actually to the patients. So now we have started with these membranes for organ on a chip solutions. This is not for the human use. This is for the more also kind of research use. So there are specific organs on a chip. It's kind of organ models, let's say, which you use in the research to test different drugs, not to use the animals. Because in the Europe there are now new regulatory that we need to use less animals in different drug studies and so on.
Right.
So we create now this membranes for organ on a chip solutions and do different testings and so on for the drugs. So this is our first application, and this is, let's say, it's not already available on the market, but we are already doing first pilots with our first customers. So really soon it will be available on the market for the research centers, for the pharma companies, and so on. But then,
Mhm.
of course, our next application, it's medical ones, like different bound dressings and so on. But for this, we need to get through the certification, so it takes some time, some
Right.
years. So,
Well,
so actually, the patients will see our product within a years, but
okay.
hopefully never. It's really nice, and you would be really lucky if you will never use our products.
Right. Well, we'll be happy to have it if we ever need it. Let's say it
Yeah,
like that.
but better
Okay.
don't.
Well, I mean, and you've clearly seen support, even if maybe you haven't entered this kind of public testing phase. You've raised over 1 million, I think, according to my notes, right, in grants. Part of it is this Women Tech EU program, which I think it's a good moment to kind of touch on that. And just I want to hear a little bit more about how that kind of support helped PrintyMed. So much on the journey, on where you were at that moment, and even beyond, if you felt kind of a lasting support and effect from this program.
Yeah, actually, even more. Now we have around 2 millions, maybe more even,
Okay.
because we recently got also EAC grant. So yeah.
Mm,
Women TechEU, it was really, really nice program, and it's exactly for the kind of young startups, let's say, in the TRL 4 or 5 something, which are still also in the research phase, like who is still not selling, but still, let's say, doing the research and or preparing to talk with the first customers and so on, preparing for this sales and so. But yeah, during this program, we've got really nice sessions regarding the regulatory IP and so on,
mm,
as also grant and funding attraction. Then we also had the mentorship with our mentor. We talked a lot about the scaling of our production process. And yeah, but the main thing, this project led us to another project, which I already mentioned, to the EIC Pre-Accelerator. So
right.
this helped us to prepare for this kind of bigger grant project, which is 700,000 euro,
Mm.
because the Women TechEU was 75,000. So it's not so big amount of money for kind of scientific based projects, because we need quite a lot of money to do what we have planned to do.
Mm.
But still, this is very good, like first second step to start with, and then to get further.
So would you say that's the main benefit that you got from it, was to kind of put you up on another level and continue on a path?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, and with that in mind, I'm curious to hear, because we at EU Startups, we hear about all kinds of accelerators and programs. One Tech EU, You've mentioned EIC accelerators. There's plenty of them, right? From your experience in being involved with these, what would you say is a gap or something that still could be improved to support, especially when we're talking about women building startups, to support women building startups?
Well, it's hard to say actually. Because always the first question is financing because let's say it doesn't depend women building or not startup, but still you need to have kind of a lot of financing if you are building deep tech startups.
Mm.
But regarding the woman, hmm, for me, it's really hard to answer to this question because in Latvia we have more women's. I mean, in the science and in some leading positions and so on than men's. In
Really?
Latvia,
Well,
we have kind
that's
of
great. Yeah.
best situation. I mean, if we are
Mm.
comparing with other countries, so so yeah. But overall, if we think, then just I think like from the very beginning, it's really good to have such programs
Yeah.
which are specifically for the women to encourage them more to have this community with also other, let's say, peers, women with who you can talk and understand with another mentor women. Also,
Mm.
we need somehow to show kind of good examples and best practices of other women to have some role model perhaps as well, because to be honest, if you think now, let's say, just imagine you're a young entrepreneur and you have um some role model, who would
Mm.
be it? Like Elon Musk maybe, or let's say Bill Gates or someone, but it's men's.
Mm.
So do you know any woman, like, if you think now?
I mean, on that kind of scale, no, I guess not. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the problem, I think, first of all. But
Mm.
I think that there are still a lot of great women. Okay, maybe not on that kind of scale, but still,
Mm.
I think we can look in Europe and so on. We will find some great examples,
Yeah.
and we need somehow to promote them more.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, just with our
Just to
podcast.
ensure another women that they can also do this. Not only Elon Musk and Mans can do. Women, there is also a place for the women.
Yes, yes. It's part of the reason for this episode, but we try as hard as we can to feature women voices as well. And there's plenty of women entrepreneurs out there who have plenty of interesting and insightful kind of commentary to give. But it is harder to find. I think that is true. I think it's naturally easier to find more men interviewees and entrepreneurs for these kinds of episodes, and is to find women. But we try our best on our end to feature and to kind of promote these voices, as you say. But there is the other side then, because we're talking the media side. Then there is the accelerator and the economical and the financing side, which is its own kind of promotion. And it does feel like there's still a ways to go, and there's still ways forward to kind of find that balance. But it's great to hear about Latvia. That's amazing that that there's more women in these kind of roles and in science, and maybe that should be the insight from this episode. So we should all be more like Latvia in that sense.
Yeah, in this sense, yes.
Okay, we'll keep it at that. Well then,
I guess if you will look in all other, let's say, economic measurements, then Latvia will be like kind of the last one somewhere with Romania and Bulgaria.
well, I've never visited Latvia, so I can't speak to that. But it does seem like
Latvia is really nice to visit. It's really beautiful and green country. And where are you from, actually?
Spain. We're based in Barcelona. Yes.
Yeah. So now in Spain it's like plus 40.
It's getting there. It's not quite there yet, but we're feeling it. Definitely.
So yeah, in Latvia we have now plus 21, 23. Oh. So you definitely should come.
Yeah,
We have nice healthy tea, and it's not so hot here.
Yeah. Well, I'm wearing this blazer, but I'm near close to breaking a sweat here. I just want it to look nice. But to get back on track, with PrintyMed, I did kind of also want to talk about, and we had kind of briefly discussed this over email, but I think it's an interesting side, is kind of the future of PrintyMed, and that you seem to have begun kind of a partnership and a discussion of opening labs in Saudi Arabia, right? And I kind of want to hear about how that came across, because you don't hear about that often. A kind of European startup that's getting started and has raised some funding, getting involved in accelerators, and then a partnership in Saudi Arabia. That feels a little bit like an outlier to me. So just kind of to hear a bit more on that.
Yeah. So we were participating, I think, 2 years in a row in Dubai in Expand North Star exhibition, where we met our potential investor from Saudi Arabia, and he invited us to come to Saudi Arabia and to check what opportunities they are offering there, because now Saudi Arabia, they wants to become as, let's say, one of the leading countries in the biotech. So there are many interesting opportunities and programs for the startups in the biotech now. I mean, funding, mentoring, and different opportunities to partner with universities and so on. So we came there at the beginning to, let's say, to explore and to understand whether it fits us or no. And then we understood that actually Saudi Arabia might be a very interesting place for us, because as soon as you get the certification there, it's kind of similar to FDA. So it opens you both Saudi Arabia and American markets, which are very big, and afterwards it's also much easier to get the European certification later on. So we are also working there with the local universities and research centers on the development of different applications, and yeah, we are looking forward to go through the certification process there.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting angle then on terms of the European comparison. Do you feel then that that's a barrier for health techs in Europe? Is the kind of regulatory landscape and the difficulties in maybe scaling?
Yes, I definitely think so, because now for in Europe, it's the hardest and the strictest
Mm.
part where you can get the certification for some medical, let's say, applications for medical devices. And I think we definitely need to think in Europe some new initiatives or some new laws which would allow to somehow to fast track some new solutions. Of course, it still need to be safe, tested,
Mm.
and so on. But I think there might be some exceptions, or I don't know, or some specific, let's say, playgrounds where these companies could test faster and could work more efficient.
Especially if it results in companies going outside of Europe to kind of grow and to find funding and all these things. I would imagine that's not something that Europe wants to promote. I would want these companies to stay in and to kind of feel free to grow. But you're right that there also has to be an element of safety, especially when we're talking about health applications more than anything. But
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
uh, it is, that's one side of it. And then the other side of what you do, which surprised me, excuse me, was the skincare and healthcare applications. Another thing that I just had no idea spider silk could be used for. And I saw mentioned that there was a partnership with, was it Chanel, for a cosmetic
Yeah,
glove
yeah,
designed to support skin regeneration. So how does that work?
yeah. Well, yeah, we were participating, I think, last year in the Hello Tomorrow in France, and we pitched our solution. And afterwards, we've got the email from Chanel that they are interested in creation of, let's say, glove for the cosmetic applications, which would regenerate the, let's say, skin, the scars, and so on. And they were asking if it would be possible to produce it from the spider silk.
Mm.
But actually, I'm now saying this, and I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to say this.
Oh, okay.
And whether we can include this information in the podcast.
Okay. Well, you can let me know afterwards, and we can cut out if we need to. Oh, I did read this. It's already online. I read this from an article that was published in 2025. So
yeah,
I don't think it's confidential. If it is, it's been out there for a while now. But but you can check back in, and then we can edit this out if need be.
Well, you see, once I have already said this somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an interesting side of the company, and I think it's surprising to maybe anybody who had been kind of following, saying, "Oh, yeah, health tech applications," and then you tell me there's a cosmetic, there's a skincare application. It really expands the breadth of what you can do.
Yeah, actually, we are working also by ourselves on the cosmetic applications. So we are producing spider silk like hydrogel, which can be used as the ingredient for cosmetic to produce different creams, shampoos, and whatever. Because spider silk helps to regenerate, so the new cells are very good attaching to it and growing.
Right.
So yeah, there is bunch of applications where spider silk can be used.
Okay. Well, now because we're already pulling at 32 minutes, so I want to kind of throw the last question at you here, which to me is kind of at a broader national level, because here at EU Startups, we actually don't hear about that many Latvian startups. It's not a very common country of origin for the companies that we see getting funding. So I kind of wanted to ask you what the national startup kind of ecosystem looks like in your eyes, and maybe what it still has to accomplish to maybe become more prominent.
Well, I think in Latvia we have a strong basement of the research, but then regarding the startups and the companies, there is some problems. I mean, and this is also what we are trying to achieve. I'm also, let's say, actively working and participating in different, let's say, initiatives to somehow to make our ecosystem better and to help the deep tech startups to grow and so on. Because in Latvia, unfortunately, we don't have so much funding opportunities. Right. And for the startup, let's say, which just spun out from the lab, it's very crucial. And in Latvia, for example, we don't have 100% grants. So you need co-finance them, all the projects and so on. And the amounts of grants are also really, really small. So it's really hard because unfortunately we don't have such big support as some other bigger countries and some opportunities. Right. So yeah, that's why we need to also look around. And unfortunately, many startups are relocating to another countries because of all these problems.
Right.
But now we are actively working to change this system, and hopefully soon there will be some more programs for the deep tech startups. And hopefully we will see more and more Latvian startups.
Yes. Well, we at EU Startups will keep our eye out for Latvian startups. Hopefully, as you say, we'll see more and more of them in the coming future. So on that note, Jekaterina, I want to thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and it's been quite informative, at least for me, who knew nothing about spider silk before now.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Before we let you go, we want to remind you that applications for the Women TechEU program are currently open. The eligibility strand remains open until the 13th of July, 2027, with weekly cutoff dates. Eligible applicants can then proceed to apply for one of the 4 full submission deadlines that will be issued over the next year, with the closest being the 16th of September, 2026. So if you're a woman founder leading an early-stage deep tech startup in an eligible country, visit the Women TechEU website to learn more about the program. Check your eligibility and apply.